Hello and welcome back to the Fox Strength and Performance YouTube channel. I am Taylor Fox, and this is a combination of the last couple event sessions for me before OSG Northeast Regionals. So doing some pressing out of the rack here. I was trying to get this switch from a power grip to a thumbless grip down. I don't think this worked out very well, although it might be something I'm able to use on the clean as I'm kind of rolling the bar back on my sternum and trying to just kind of flip my thumbs under. I get a lot better press and I get a lot better front rack angle with no thumbs, but it like drastically improves my clean when I grab my thumbs around the bar. And mainly that's because I kind of just use my thumbs to cue pushing under the bar and getting into that front rack on the clean. And I find that with the thumbless grip, I kind of hit like that edge of my palm, and I can't actually get the bar in my hand efficiently on a lot of reps. So it's kind of annoying because it's like one's good for one, one's good for the other, and I can't really optimize it very well, especially since like the axle clean kind of sucks for me, and I feel very uncomfortable like with the bar up in the front rack, like holding it. I know like we watch weightlifters and sometimes it feels like they're just sitting there with it forever, hanging out, and then I'm like, yeah, I can't have this bar here for that long. The other thing, like, you notice like some of these got a little off balance, so I've still been recovering from this SC joint sprain. And a couple of these reps, like I came down and just kind of jerked my right shoulder down a little bit. So it wasn't terrible, but I kind of just felt like the session fell apart after this, or just like I ran out of steam and I was like, okay, well, there's no real reason to force anything. I just, worked up to what I could and had to call it for the day. But I really did try to like just make sure I continue to get some singles in. Like if I'm not feeling great, I can still hit 300 something pounds and really make sure I get that rep in. Because that's really what I'm just trying to do is like not prepare for the situation where I don't feel great and still be able to like grind out that one rep and make sure I get that point on the board and live to fight another day with the next event. So definitely like I feel good about like optimizing everything with the full run of events. I don't expect to win like pressing events all the time. I would love to get there someday and I really have improved and worked on it, but it's all about just kind of like consistency for me and getting the points that I can so I can move on to the next event and be in a good placing. So this was really a tester for me with my ST joint injury. I'd done the 705 reverse bands and that just felt terrible, but it continued to heal up well. And I'll do some farmers that you'll see later. So I was like, I really just need to pull like around 500 pounds and make sure I can really tolerate pulling without like the reverse band, like pulling a deadlift normally, lock out, get the shoulders all the way back, and make sure I'm in a good spot with that. So this did feel really good. I was really happy with it. I know it's like minimal weight compared to what I have to do, but big win here, and it's like I can now take the opportunity to rest up. Like I feel like I've done a good job with my deadlift, and I definitely feel prepared to come in and just pull this weight, just keep pulling until I can. The one thing that kind of sucked was that I don't know if it's like I just pushed in the ground hard or like I'm always a big proponent of like working on the adductors, and my left groin just went on me in this session and it definitely felt a little tight. And I was like, I'm going to finish off my deadlifts and make sure I get in a good position, and not aggravate it more, but I had it wrapped up, which I might see in like the next session for the axle cleans, and then yoke and farmers, and then sandbag. And it's just one of those things. So it's like, okay, like finally got over this one injury, and then you get another little ding that you have to deal with. But that's kind of how the sport goes, and you need to be able to like deal with that. And it's like, don't expect to be durable to the point where you're just not getting tendinopathies and like strains and even like contusions because you just get in a bad position. And I mean, I get my shin scraped up all the time, and it's not just from deadlifts. But like, be durable in the fact that you can like work around that or work through it, make the best decision that you can, and just move on and do the best you can with your training so you're as prepared as possible. But basically take like a couple sets, rest like this, and then come back and pull again. Really just making sure I can keep that work capacity in place for this rep event. And then I took a break, and then I did the other 2 sets of 3. But like, other than that little hiccup there, like everything felt good. And I am definitely ready to be done with axle deadlift. Like, it feels like pretty cool to think about, like, hey, I could deadlift with another bar. Just because I've been really trying to dial in like the axle deadlift for this event. So it's really like the only bar that I've deadlifted on for a while now. And my buddy even like was saying to me when I walked in the gym, he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Axle clean and press, axle deadlift." He's like, "I'm sure you're like absolutely ready to be done with this." And it's like, yes, like I've liked axle and I've liked doing different axle variations, but once you've done it for like 2 events for a whole prep, it's like, okay, like I am really done with this implement. So moving on to the next session. This was a Saturday session, starting off with some anchor squats, and I was really proud of this. I was like, well, even if I don't have a good press session, like the fact that I've got my mobility here after like not being able to squat down when I started doing this movement, I was like, that's a huge win, and it's really going to carry over to like my technique and position in the competition and future competitions. So I was really happy with that. And you can check out stuff from Mitchell Hooper, Sonny Webster, other guys in weightlifting or that have like good techniques with that kind of thing, like Martins, if you're looking for mobility drills like that. And I was always kind of just like, it's not going to happen, but I really committed to a few different movements over the course of 12 weeks, and I've seen some drastic improvement, and it's really to the point where I feel like I'm excited for the future as far as like my pressing and what I can do with these events of Strongman. So I feel like it's only going to get better from here, and that's where like I feel like I can really open up and like take it to my competition, because having that ability to like be a top 3 or be a top 5 in any field on a press event is huge, given what I know I can do in other events, and really just, push my consistency and get as many points as possible in shows, and, really start to win things and move up on the ladder of like amateur strongman, like look to be on that pro status. So here we got a red and then a blue on, and with the base weight, this should be like 110 kilos or 242. So honestly, like the clean kind of hit me hard with just this weight. I was like, I don't know why. Like the press felt easy, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna reset And I've been doing this where I've just been bumping the weight up slightly, which I kind of like. Like as it gets harder with the additional rep, you add a little bit more weight. You feel like it will be the same kind of like conditions doing a rep event with a heavier weight. Like it's gonna feel heavier as you keep going. And again, like that all felt good. It was just weird. Like I got the axle. Oh man, I was just like, I think this feels terrible today, but continued to jump up the weight because I got to get ready for this. And this is where I really started to like notice, okay, like this is a big technical fault and really something I'd kind of like missed because I just haven't been filming and just trying to work as hard as I can on getting ready for this show. So I didn't notice it all. I did like note that like my right arm felt kind of gimpy. I was like, I don't know why. Like I feel like lost in this position because it feels like the weight should come up well, but I'm just in a kind of a bad spot. So if you look here on my right side or to your left as the viewer, like that right elbow is just like way down, like it's not up at all, but I get my left elbow in a good position, so then it just looks incredibly stupid. And like once I really noticed this, I was like, I have to fix that and get in a better spot because that's really going to help me with the clean. So like mainly my focus was just to really lock in and like basically look at my arm. If it was in that spot, then like correct it, make sure I have a good position on my belly before I really go for that next clean. And obviously like I've worn myself out at this point and hopefully like not just really screwed myself just practicing poor technique for weeks. But I've been doing some really hard cleans because they're just incredibly inefficient, and now like I'm trying to correct it. And this was like one where I hadn't done it yet, and so you see that's been happening to me a lot where I just get it onto my sternum and I can't flip it back because it was in a terrible position to start. But I've done so many clean stiletto in this session, like that I'm like very exhausted, and I've also been kind of practicing this poor technique now for weeks. So I'm hoping like the work I did here today, and then in the following weeks, like after this session, and it wasn't like that much time, but like just making that mental key to like correct that is gonna pay off for me, and I guess we'll see. I feel like this is finally a set where I correct it, which is just frustrating to see, but and I mean this is where like I'll set up for deadlift and it's like I'm locked in and ready to go. Like here doing clean, I'm like standing over the bar like what am I gonna do? Like so I took a much slower approach on like getting the bar there, but like obviously you still see like it's not good, and this is where I really cue it like okay, like let's correct this and make sure it's in a good spot, because I was like I don't know why I can't clean this weight, and I'm like frustrated, like I've been working on this for weeks. So yeah, like get the elbow up, flip the hand. Now I'm in a good position where I can pop again, roll, get my elbows under, and stand up. And then my goal here was really just to be like, let's get this weight into a front rack and make sure like I can actually do this. So then I can like really work on doing it repeatedly and then be able to press the weight like with some actual energy. So I feel like this worked out a little bit better, and I could at least like get it up and have it in a good spot. So I was encouraged by that, but that's something where it's just a detail like I really need to get a hold of and make sure I'm not missing, because it's incredibly important, and it's something where, like, I feel like with these kind of events, I need to outsource my programming and get a coach and really get somebody that can help me and get it dialed in. And I think at this point I was just done, so I was like, okay, like, I think we're at the point of like, let's move on and work on some other events. And these kids behind me were like, oh my god, you have my squat on this bar that you're trying to like pop up your body and front rack and then press. And I was like, yeah, but unfortunately everybody in my weight class does that, so it's not that impressive. Like, I need to be able to do it for a bunch of reps. But we moved on to farmers, and honestly they felt pretty good. My pec and that area around like my SC joint was like, it felt tight. So I just did some runs with, what is this gonna be, like 270 per hand. And I was like, I would like to go heavier, but I don't want to walk and like mess it up again. So I'm just gonna do some heavy picks with weight. So I threw on another set of reds per side and just picked 380 per hand. And this feels a little tight. Like, I definitely felt it after I put it down. Like, picking it and standing up with it, it feels okay, but then putting it down and after I let go, and I'm like, okay, like that definitely felt tight, but it's okay. Like, I tolerated it well. And that's basically what I've been telling people, is like, I'm trying to get my skeleton to be able to tolerate like 900 pounds, you know, loaded on my back, and then what would it be, like 720, 730 loaded in my hands. If you're looking at like 365, which is the comp weight. So I felt like good about this session, just doing some speed runs with 635, and then I combined that with the sandbag. So I'd come and I would take my belt off and then run back down and do the sandbag. These events aren't combined, but I was like, it's a fun way to just like change it up a little bit. And also I just kind of needed to be done with this session, so I was like trying to get everything in I needed and then move on. But it was a nice training modality because like my yoke height is so high for loading. To run the sandbag, which I'm going to need to do with the max distance event, and then to load it over my yoke height, which I'm going to need to load 360 over 52 inches. I really, like, I felt good about this training. Like, this was probably the second hardest session that I did. This prep, the one I did outside with yoke and farmers at my house, and I was like, I legitimately might have rhabdo after. Was terrible, but I would definitely say this one was a close second. I really called it my day of hell, which the next part is the last iteration of that. So I was glad that I was able to push it hard and practice some different events. So I call this the Brian Kitchen sandbag load yoke push gauntlet. If you don't know Brian, he's a very good strongman, and he's competing in Strongman Champions League Finland right now. And he basically was just like, load the sandbag over the yoke and then push the yoke. I left some weight on because I was like, I can push it kind of like a sled. Unfortunately, that it catches on the sandbag, so it wasn't super great, but you get the yoke past the sandbag and then go back, load it again, and just keep going. So I thought it's a fun, different way to do sandbag load and like really work on the work capacity here. And some people might not it'd be like, this isn't specific, like the load event, you actually have to run around the yoke. Like, yeah, I know, like, I understand that, and like, that's a transition I've worked on and I've done in a lot of different competitions. And I guess if I fail at that event and like it's not an optimal performance, I'll have to look back at that and be like, I should have done that more. But this is a brutal way to train these type of events, so I was having fun with it and I enjoyed it until the end when I was like, I'm done. And then I was like, no, you have to do one more load. And I was like, oh, come on. But I was like, look, I'm here to push limits, not, tap out when I feel like I'm done. So we're going to get this last load in and then just push myself as hard as I can and get around and do the next one. And if this sounds any different, my mic died, so I'm just recording it on my laptop now. But I hope you guys enjoyed this session. I'm definitely ready to get to this OSG regional show, and I hope to bring you some content from that as well. But until next time, keep lifting those heavy weights and hold strong.